Well, last episode, we were trying to do a bit where I was late and I was coming back from work. And this time, it is 9:32. We usually do our podcast at 9:30. Jimmy is nowhere in sight. I'm not even getting any messages from him. I don't know what's going on. But you know what? The show must go on, as they say. So I was thinking, maybe we can try something new, something unprecedented, something completely out of the ordinary for the QQC podcast. And let's do a call-in show. Basically, I put my number in the description of this definitely live recording, and I'm going to I'm gonna pose a topic, and we're gonna get questions and opinions from the lovely folks out there. So today's topic is going to be AI, friend or foe to the artists. What do we say? Oh, okay, we got somebody already. All right, who's this? Who we got?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, where are you from?
I'm from Canada.
It's from Canada.
Yeah.
All right. What opinions do you have on the topic of AI and the artists? What's the conundrum? What's the solution?
You want
I want to hear from you.
you want to know about AI what? AI what?
AI and its
Cause
effects
usually,
on art.
usually what I say is AI. I go get a pack of smokes. AI go to the liquor store. AI go to a hockey game. What are you talking? AI what?
Oh, okay. See,
What
I
they should-
think I think there may be a slight language barrier.
What?
Um,
What?
what I was
What language do you think we speak here in Canada? With the fucking English there? Eh? AI
I
speak
need-
English? AI speak... Hey,
we need to get a translator on the QQC podcast because I have no idea what this guy is saying.
Hey, anyway, I
Um,
gotta go there. Hey, I gotta go get some...
I'm gonna
smokes.
take the
There's
next caller.
Yeah,
I'm
take
sorry.
care.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
man.
sorry there. Bye.
Yeah, I'm hanging up. Complete fucking gibberish. I don't know what they're doing up there. Okay, next caller on the topic of AI. Maybe I need to make it more concise. Artificial intelligence. What is this effect on art in the modern world? Is it gonna take over? What's gonna happen? Everyone gonna lose their jobs? Is this gonna be sad? I'm accepting colors. Oh, we got another call. Who's this? Who we got?
Hello?
Hello, what's your name? Where are you
Hi,
from?
Hello? Can you hear me?
No, I can.
Yeah,
I can.
hi.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, no, I can hear you.
Okay, my name's Darlene.
Where are you from,
And
darling?
I'm from Michigan.
Oh, Michigan, fellow,
Yeah.
Michigander.
Oh, you're from Michigan too.
Yeah.
That's something else.
Yeah.
Wow.
Born and raised in Nunica,
on.
Michigan.
Oh, I guess that's why your name is like that then, right?
Yeah, very creative, I know.
See. Well, today, when you're asking about AI, like, what is it that you're really talking about? Because is it like a phone, or is it like a computer thing, or like what?
Yeah, you could say kind of like a computer thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of like a computer thing then.
Yeah,
Okay.
like yeah.
Yeah, my son knows more about that than I do.
Oh.
But I only get to see him sometimes, so I don't really know much about. So I guess I can't really say.
Well, I'm really glad you called in, Darlene. I think maybe there's some confusion about what the
Okay.
questions were. I don't think I
Yeah.
stated them very clearly. I Okay, is there
No, you
anything
didn't.
you'd like to say to the folks at home before I cut you off
I
here?
just wanted to say that and I just wanted to say that it's my son's birthday in 2 days,
Oh,
and he's going to be 7. And I just wanted to call in because I know he's a fan of the show, and I know that he's going to be watching this, and I know he's going to be listening to this, and so I really wanted to wish him a happy birthday.
that's really
Hi,
sweet.
Tyler.
Have you
Happy
heard
birthday,
this show?
Tyler.
You know? I mean,
Yeah, of
I don't
course
want
I
to
know the Quest for
impose,
Quality
but
Content podcast. It's my favorite. I also listen to every
okay.
episode.
I'm not gonna tell you how to rate your kids.
Listen, I'm just thinking that if there were more TV shows that featured a talking trash can who makes loud noises that are kind of scary sounding, then the world would be a better place. So I just want.
Well, I highly appreciate that.
No, thank you.
All right, I think we got the intro.
I don't know if this is a successful bit, but I'm fucking laughing. Thank you. Thank you. AI art.
It was very much like a Midwestern mom.
Yeah, I was really doing some character work there.
It was great. So what's up, folks? We'll drop the ruse now. Jimmy's been here the whole time.
Yeah, I fucking blew your mind, baby. Chris Angel up in this bitch. Mind freak. I'm a mind freak you all night long. Come on, what you gonna do about
He
it?
freaked your mind. And there's no, there's
Once your
no
mind,
repercussion that you have against that.
once your mind has been freaked, your mind can't be unfreaked. What the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's freaked forever. Freaked for good.
Speaking of freaked for good, our artists finally fucking freaked for life with AI art. What's the scoop?
Man, that was a great segue.
Yo, that's why I'm the king
Wow,
of podcasts.
I just have to applaud you on that.
Thank you.
And now I've ruined it by drawing out. But
Hell yeah.
yeah, that's the topic of today's episode. We're going to talk about the changing climate of the artistic world. You see, all these robots. I don't know if you've been hearing about these machines,
Fucking lug nut heads, man.
these computers,
Skin jobs. I don't like them.
they're I don't know, they're starting to draw things or something. I'm not super familiar. Apparently, they're trying to take our jobs. And as Americans, you know how we feel about people or entities of any kind, entering the market and taking our jobs.
What are you are you saying that Americans tend to have a bias and react strongly and poorly when people that are different from them in any conceivable way could or could not potentially be infringing on their employment that they don't want to do anyway?
I don't think there's a historical precedent for that.
No.
I don't think so.
No, I think it's all made up.
I think it's we would never. So, truth be told, I'm not entirely educated on how exactly all of this artificial intelligence works. I'm not a programmer. I do not develop algorithms. I have played around a little bit with some of these tools, and I gotta say, I've been actually following some of this stuff for a while. I mean, it was kind of exciting for a while because it was very clearly just tools, right? It was very clearly just like, oh, here's an AI program that can help you more successfully remove things that you don't want out of an image, like content aware fill in Photoshop, or like the content aware fill now that they have in After Effects, where you can basically do the same thing, but in video form.
That's pretty
you know?
tight. That's a super useful tool, I'm sure.
They're cool, and yeah, they're cool, and they're tools, and then all of a sudden when it starts to get a little scary is when it stops being a tool and starts just being a replacement. And that's when I started to get kind of a feeling in my bones that, hey, I think I think there might be some bad things on the horizon with this. I know there's a lot of nuance to this topic, and I know there's a lot of people very very pro and very anti.
No, it's super polarizing.
AI in art. It's very polarizing, and to be honest, I'm not going to really fully. If you're looking for a podcast that's just going to completely mirror your opinion back to you, I cannot help because I do not know my opinion yet.
Oh, I got an opinion. I've got a hot take
as I go along.
I have a firm stance on this, and I'm gonna stick to it until the very end, and I'm not gonna change my mind one bit. I promise.
What's your firm stance? Educate us.
Well, I don't know. It depends on if you want to get into it first or you want to, because I have a few different avenues of thought where we could take this conversation, and I think they're both interesting, and I want to get to both of them for sure. But I don't know. I think, what are your initial thoughts? What was your initial, did you have an initial, emotional reaction when it was becoming more and more popular on Twitter? Shit was popping up every day.
It's interesting because, I feel like collectively there was this feeling of oh, this is so much fun. This is crazy that we can do this now. And it's still kind of taking its first steps. So it was it's really impressive, but at the same time, it's well, it's pretty obvious when it is and when it isn't AI art. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the thing about technology, especially technology that teaches itself, is kind of growing exponentially. I mean that in a vague sense, not in an actual scientific sense, because I don't know the exact rate. I don't know if it's exponential growth or not.
Best clarification.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about things like AI, and we know that it's going to attract all the noids.
Oh, yeah.
All the noids.
What, they're going to get so pissed off at us? We know nothing. I know nothing about AI. You tell a computer to do it.
I know some of the effects of it. I tried to kind of learn some of how it gets trained, so I can kind of have a little bit more of an educated take on it.
Interesting.
But to be honest, it's very confusing stuff. There's a lot of very shady things that I think we should get into at some point in the podcast, as far as how they were built and kind of where they might be going. But also the thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is, given the reality that we live in right now, where I feel like this kind of quote unquote progress, right, is not something that can really be stopped. It's one of those things where, we can try to make a stand against it. We can try to, slow it down as much as we can. But once that kind of cat's out of the bag, as it were, it's kind of gonna be difficult to put it back in.
Like most things, like most advancements in either technology or society, I think it's a hard ball to stop rolling. Unless something big happens. But is that necessarily a bad thing? This is the big question, is what are the concerns with AI art, right? Like we mentioned, it's we're afraid that robots are going to take the jobs of artists, essentially.
Right.
And while I don't think that's true necessarily for all circumstances, I don't think it's going to completely eliminate the need for physical art or art that was made person-made art,
but certainly in the corporate world, there's going to be a lot less incentive to hire real people, unless that's something that's that's like a selling point of it, is like, we hire real artists. You know, most like I think most like jobs of like logo creation or like even stuff like in the animation industry,
Yeah.
or like storyboarding and stuff and concept art. Like I feel like, I mean, because of capitalism, things are going to continue to, you know, I mean, the whether you like capitalism or you hate it, you know, the reality of it is, just by definition, you know, it rewards kind of cutting out all the fat. You know, it's anything that's not absolutely necessary to make this thing run. That's anything that's not maximizing profits. You know, is getting kicked to the curb. So, that can pose a pretty big problem for artists. I don't think that. I think it's a thing with nuance though, like, because I think that, like, it's not that no artists are going to be able to have jobs or anything. I think there might be kind of like a, I'm trying to find the right word. Not a retaliation, but pretty much, you know, kind of like almost like a reactionary movement, of like, humanist art or whatever, where it's like, because that it is so easy to just generate stuff, I feel like there might be an increasing movement of like maybe an ethical movement, or maybe like a just artistic movement of like, there is intrinsic value in consuming things that's made by real people. And I never really expected that would be like a contested thing until recently.
No, of course. But I mean, like...
But I think in the corporate world, it's going to get a little bit...
It's going to be interesting in the corporate world in terms of, like graphic designers might be fucked, right? Like you said earlier, logo designers might be fucked. But at the end of the day, like, the things that people care about, like, the products that people care about enough to go see, it, like, let's say in terms of a movie or in terms of a TV show or a YouTube video or whatever, they care about it for a reason. They care about it because choices were made, or they like these characters. And if it's all made randomly, then sure, and that's fine. If you teach an algorithm how to generate or create a piece of art that will give you a character that is like certifiably meant to be the most successful or likable character, then it's fine, sure. But already we can see in a lot of spheres that when they do the exact same thing but with real people, when they have board meetings and stuff, and they have what do they do at the screenings and the like audience test, what do they call those tests? Focus groups. Yeah. When things are based on focus groups results, and every movie is made by committee to determine its like most maximal like profitability, then like absolutely sure that would be like, that's happening now. Right? It's happening. But the fact is, nobody thinks that's good art. Nobody thinks that's good shit. That is a product that fucking parents take their kids to on a Saturday matinee, or it's something that'll appeal to audiences overseas and make most of the money over there, and that's fine. But there's a very big difference. Honestly, if we're talking about like how this relates to actual artists in the industry, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a conscious effort or a humanitarian movement to push back against AI art. I just think that the things that are already in place will continue in their natural direction. Marvel movies are going to be made by fucking algorithms. Characters are going to be designed by AI. Animation is going to be done by AI in the next maybe 50, 60, 70 years, right? Whole fucking computer-generated shots generated by AI. No problem. No problem. But the things that are real, the things that are like passion projects, or the things that reach people on an emotional level, the things that people already care about the craftsmanship that went into it, that will never leave. I don't think that's going anywhere. And also, this is an interesting point. When painting was a thing, right? Oil paintings and shit, when portraiture was like the main way to know what a motherfucker looked like,
Right.
And then some guy came along one day with some photosensitive or some light sensitive paper and invented the
Right.
fucking camera. I don't know. John A. Camera. He came along and he had his brilliant invention, the picture grabber. And he snaps a
Right.
photo. Portraits didn't really go away, right? Like, they did in the sense that you don't
painting
need,
kind
like...
of went more surrealist after that.
Yeah, of course, but it still stuck around. And in order
Yeah.
to be an art, like if you're going to art school or if you're like studying the art of painting, then you're learning about form and you're learning about shading and light and all of these things and like,
Yeah.
you know, how to fucking prime your canvas and all that stuff. So it like these art forms don't necessarily dissipate so quickly, obviously. Like over time, sure, no one does cave paintings anymore, obviously. But I think my point is like things, new modes of art are very rarely a one-to-one replacement.
Right.
You know, things shift in terms of popularity, sure. Things go underground or come back in fashion or evolve in their own right. But just because AI art is a thing, I don't think that's ever going to replace the many things. Like, what's the concern? What jobs is it going to be taking away from artists, you know?
Well, I think especially because of how fast it's being developed and how it's getting so much better, so much quicker than we probably could have expected. Like, I think it's going to be very disruptive to current industry, to current, you know. So, like, even, I mean, this is like a dumb example, but I just saw an article recently that, like, BuzzFeed, like, fired, I think, 12% of its journalists. That might be a wrong percentage, sorry. I'm not a robot. I can't remember percentages perfectly. That's a flaw that will be removed when I'm replaced with AI Noonie for next episode. But no, they laid off those people specifically to, I mean, they said not replace them, but basically they're just going to utilize those tools of like AI article writing and stuff and negate the need to have many of those journalists because they can have just like a smaller number of journalists and then have them use this AI software or whatever to help them generate, you know, content quicker or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think it's entirely, especially because it's not going to stay at the level it is now. Like right now it struggles with like hands and stuff with AI art, you know, it struggles with, you know, certain proportions and stuff. Like there are things that it can't do really well right now, but you have to understand that it's still learning. And before, like it was laughably bad. Now it's kind of, there's some examples where it looks like real art. Like there was like a like art competition somewhere, and thinking that it was this person's real art, the AI submission, you know, won, you know, first prize at this place, and it was indistinguishable from quote unquote real art, you know. So I don't think we can dismiss the fact that people will probably lose their jobs. I think, if not, I don't think they'll completely replace, at least in the current time, I don't think they're planning on replacing like the entire team of concept artists, but they'll probably have like one or two concept artists who are using the AI to generate stuff and then maybe just touch it up, you know.
Well, I mean,
I think, yeah.
I think it all points to like just a broader problem of like everything becoming more and more automated and more and more people losing jobs, but then more jobs being created in terms of like, oh, inventing these new things. But I mean, ultimately it's a vicious cycle of like the people at the top and the people running the fucking show trying to maximize
Right.
profits and minimize costs.
Well, I mean, automation's great for things like labor that nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
If there wasn't,
But here's
a ton of
counterpoint.
people who didn't have jobs.
How many fucking artists? How many artists like working at a big fucking like really want to be designing company logos?
Well, maybe not
Maybe.
company logos, but that's not like the only thing that's going to be replaced. Is my point.
No.
Like even people working in like animation and stuff, a lot of them are going to be replaced. I think. And that's like a dream job for a lot of people, doing like storyboards, doing
That's
concept
true.
art. I mean, those are people who
No,
like,
I don't
went
think
to
so.
art school.
Not. I don't think to the level that you're thinking of. I don't agree with that, because at the end of the day, who do the studios hire to make these fucking things? Is they hire artists. You can't get an AI to direct your thing, or to be an executive producer, or to be a fucking showrunner. That doesn't work, right? And so if you have creatives involved, and those creatives have even a fucking modicum of integrity, then they're going to want to work with a real fucking person, because they have their own vision that they're trying to get out. And so they need to communicate that to someone who can work with them. Or maybe they want that human input. Maybe they want that desire, because that's just like the way. AI art, the way I see it, it's a fad. It's a fucking fad. And sure, maybe it's learning and it's improving, but like I don't know how long it's going to take until this is like a viable thing that like enters the markets and begins to replace people. I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't think that's necessarily an immediate problem. And I think in the time that it takes for this software to develop, we're also going to have time to develop as a society and figure out the ethics behind this and if it's something that we want. And at the end of the day, we're still in control. We can decide how and when to use AI art, right? And for certain things, it might be the perfect thing. It might be the perfect antidote. It might be, it might just work, right? But I think for other things, like no one's gonna watch a show generated by a fucking AI unless it's like meant to be background noise or meant to be pablum, like fucking Coco Melon or the Content Farm fucking YouTube shit. You know, those weird animations that are like.
I
so
think that
surreal.
you're underestimating what is coming, to be honest. I think that the rate at which it's going, and I mean, just what they've been able to do so far, I mean, in time, a company that wants to would be able to write some. Okay, so also. Okay, so first I'm going to finish this point, and then I'm going to talk about the ethics of actually generating stuff with these models. But first, they can actually make something that sounds like a real writer wrote it, even now, for a lot of short stories, or especially articles. It's a lot easier with like articles and things that are more kind of.
Well, are we talking about art or are we talking about journalism now? Because those are very different fields. I think, like, if
It's not necessarily in the sense of like what it's capable of. I'm kind of saying what it is now is not what it's going to be later. It's because it's growing at such a rate. So like right now, like you can input like, tell me a story about two sentient noses that live in a house and talk about Christmas.
what a strange idea.
And it will come up with something based on general story structure. It won't be a fucking masterpiece, but it will come up with something that in many executives' eyes is probably passable.
Yeah, but why would you not?
And later,
I just don't know why
Sorry.
you wouldn't just stick to what you like. What's the incentive to use AI art?
money.
I don't know.
You don't have to pay anybody.
I don't know if anyone's
It's
gonna put
free.
the fucking because you still need to hire someone to go over it. You still need someone to run the fucking program eventually, right? Like
But that's so much cheaper than hiring someone who's been through, however many years of art school.
Are we talking about screenwriting or are we talking about art? Like digital
I'm talking
art?
about all of it because it's all.
I think it's
advancing
different.
at,
Yeah,
like,
sure,
a
it's all
similar
advancing,
rate.
but I think there are like it's a case by case basis. I don't think what is true for one is true for all. I think AI art is going to have its place, and it's going to take time for us to find out what that place is for AI art. But once we do, maybe I'm just too optimistic, but I don't think anyone's going to sacrifice, like eliminating the job of screenwriter, because that's not how it works. That's not the business of art. The business of art necessitates a human element, right? And if it doesn't, then it's
I don't
purely
know.
spectacle, and it's like that's the selling point. There can be room for both, I think.
I guess I am just worried because I do not have the same optimism when it comes to, particularly, the people who have kind of the capital needed to create any decently large scale project, are usually the types of people who aren't nearly as interested in artistic merit as they are in, making slop for the masses. I feel like, there can be a place for that. I'm just saying the landscape is going to change.
Yeah, but no
I
one's
just
going
think
to
you might be
respect it.
underestimating what this
I
is.
think people are going to see
bringing.
right through it. People are going to see right through it, as they have been
I would
already.
love to believe you
when
on
when
that.
something when you see something that is like obviously AI generated or makes no sense or has minimal effort put into it or feels even like it was written by committee or feels like it was intended to be a cash cow, something like, and I haven't seen it, but the Emoji Movie, something like Angry Birds the movie, something like that, those films, which like
It won't just make that, though.
but no one's going to go see an indie film written by an algorithm unless that's the point. And then if it is the point, who are we to negate the artistic merit behind that?
They might not even disclose that it was made by an AI.
No, you have
might
to.
have a pen name.
Well, I don't know. I think that would be dishonest, and I think that's something that they should specify.
Oh, the entertainment industry is
No,
never
of course,
dishonest,
okay, but if you
ever.
want to talk about the entertainment industry being dishonest, I don't know, if most of the Hollywood elites in charge of Hollywood are, to some degree, creatives or writers, how the hell do you think that those guys are going to let that pass? Because ultimately, sure, they're beholden to the fucking companies that sponsor them or wherever they're getting the money, but that's an industry that has existed and continues to exist based around people, for better or for worse. People who now have immense power and immense control over the industry. And with that immense power comes creative power as well. Also comes abuse. But, maybe that's the paradise we're all looking. What if Hollywood was all AI? You don't have any fucking AIs being Harvey Weinsteins, Can't do that.
You would hope. Hope.
Maybe it could be a utopia, and then we just have everything we've always wanted, which is more content, just
Right.
more and more content, that
More
infinite
content,
supply, an already infinite supply.
We just need more.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. It's like there's so much art already, and the need for art and the desire for art is ever expanding. So it's just the levels of appreciation are different now. To get your fill, if you care about art, to get your fill, you're going to go to a fucking museum, or you're going to go to, I don't know, in terms of entertainment, if you want something that's like, more human, then you go to places that are more human. You don't watch a Marvel movie, you might go watch a short film on YouTube, or...
But so many people still watch Marvel movies, and a lot less people are going to show up to see an indie film.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure, but that
there is
doesn't...
an audience, there is a niche, but most of the money is not invested there.
No, but it never has been. It never has been.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, is it's going to be more of a consolidation.
Good art has never been the most popular thing. Good art has never been the most successful thing. Unless it was like backed by the Catholic Church, and we're talking about, the Renaissance, right? Then it was.
Right.
But, like, I don't know. I don't know. I think there's always going to be a separation between corporate art and I don't know, for lack of a better word, good art. Maybe not even good art, but I just real art, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a distinction. But I think there is a difference between art and product, and I think that AI can be used for both and will inevitably be used for both. But I also don't think there's any sense in necessarily worrying about it to the extent that we think it's hopeless, because the worrying and the thinking, these are discussions that we need to have so that we can figure out what the fuck to do with AI art, and we can figure out what to do with AI in general and how to implement that in our lives. What's too much? What's not enough? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't have those conversations. Maybe we won't, and we'll reach a turning point where we're all, I don't know, just in the throes of fucking capitalist splendor, and we're just consuming all the time and absorbing and using and being fed, and that's it, and we don't contribute anything but what we need to keep the wheel turning, and we're all numbed to anything important. You know, who knows? Maybe that could happen. Maybe it could not. Maybe we smarten up. I don't fucking know.
I don't know. And I don't usually take the pessimist role. I don't necessarily think it's hopeless, you know. I just think that we cannot underestimate, or we shouldn't underestimate the impact that this will have on the world in general, but, you know, also art, because that's specifically, you know, what I'm interested in talking about. There's obviously a lot of other industries and stuff that will be hugely affected by artificial intelligence, but I think you might be, I don't know, I disagree about that nobody's going to watch it.
I don't think no one's going to watch it. No. I definitely don't think no one's going to watch. People are certainly going to watch it, but it's what they're going to. Their reasons for watching it are going to be different from their reasons for watching a different film. It's the same, you know. I mean, as a very, very, very general example, it's the same thing between going to a farm and getting fresh beef or whatever, and then making your own burger with goat cheese and nice things and whatever, and then going to McDonald's.
Right.
Like you eat, it's the same thing ostensibly, but they're made in two very different ways.
There's so few people who are gonna have the time and energy to go out and you know,
and again,
make their own burger.
And again, that's always been the case. It's the people who have the means to do it, and it's the people who have the desire to do it. And I think in terms
I just think it's going to be exaggerated. I think
it's already exaggerated. It's already exaggerated.
No,
now.
I just mean that I think the contrast is going to raise on that. I think.
Well, then we can agree on that. I think we can agree on that. But I
mean, even if there wasn't AI, I'm pretty sure it would continue to, just because of the system that we're in. Man, I sound like a. Anyways, I think things are going to trend towards. Things are getting worse. They're never getting better. No, I think. Here's my outlook. I am entirely preparing myself for the idea that, you know, maybe it'll all blow over. Maybe it'll stagnate. You know, maybe AI never gets any more complicated. It won't be replacing people's jobs any more than it already has. And maybe people reject AI generated like films and stuff. But I am preparing myself for the possibility that this might be the last generation that is really able to have being an artist as a even remotely feasible career choice. I think it's going to get, there's going to be less jobs in art, I think, because there's a lot. I mean, it's the same thing when like new technology came out before with like Photoshop. I mean, all like the airbrushing people and stuff. Not many of those anymore. There's a lot of things with new technology. Some people are just left behind in it. It's unfortunate, but it's inevitable. But I just think there is a very large possibility that, at least writ large, the
By and large.
by and large, yeah. It's gonna get tough. It's gonna get tough, folks. But I think that we kind of have a duty as this possible, final generation, the last stand for humanity. We got to try the best we can to make things that are innately human, make things that are personal, make things that validate the existence of human-made art, and accentuate the value that is innately inside human beings, basically.
Counterpoint.
I think, yeah.
Appreciating the value in AI art and talking about it and analyzing it and discussing problems with it and discussing new ways to use it and new methods to use it, and the choices that humans make to use AI art to create things. Is that not also indicative of the human experience? Isn't that just an extension of the human experience? From I don't know, more like a philosophical kind of standpoint, what's the difference between interpreting a piece of art that a human made and interpreting a piece of art that an algorithm made as it makes you feel? You're still having a human experience and relating to a piece of art. And it's less so about, because it's already been discussed. It's already been a fucking talking point for the past God knows how many years since this was like a thing, right? Like the 20s or fucking whatever, I don't know. But the death of the author. Does authorial intent matter? Does creator intent matter at all to an audience member? And should it influence their perception or their experience with a piece of media or a piece of art? I mean, there's no one answer over another answer. It's subjective. It could be both. There's arguments for both. But I don't think it's... People who like art and people who interpret art and people who make art will find ways to use AI art or to look at AI art in a beneficial way as a way to advance certain other mediums artistically as opposed to just monetarily. So I think it's less so. I have a more optimistic outlook because while you're probably right, people are going to lose jobs with AI art and things becoming more automated, but we're absolutely not the last generation. I disagree completely. We're not the last generation who's going to interpret and appreciate art. We're a dying breed in the sense that the things that we like that are artistic are evolving and changing. Like today, a YouTube video can be a work of art. That is an accepted notion for people like us in our generation today. Right. For people in my generation, it might be contested that a TikTok is a work of art. I have heard that opinion where it can't be art. It's a fucking TikTok video. It's a piece of shit. Who cares? It's only like however many, under 3 minutes. You can't do something good in under 3 minutes, which is ridiculous, of course. Tons of short films that are under 3 minutes and are like remarkable, but right. But the point is, people who are on TikTok who are making art believe that they're making something really great and are doing something new and are doing something inventive and exploring how to use that medium. And it is also given people the opportunity to experiment and make things that are not necessarily films, but are akin to films, could be considered films, depending on one's interpretation. That's also the nature. I was reading a film book when I was in film school, obviously, because I'm film. But the point is, they were talking about the nature of film as an art form, and the only real like commonality between film, like as it has evolved as a form of art over the years, the only commonality is the fact that it's ever changing. Like, the only thing that is certain to describe film as a genre, the only thing that we can really pinpoint and say is that it's constantly shifting and changing. You know, when sound film was introduced, people said that's not cinema. Real cinema is silent, because that's, you know, all they knew. That was a thing.
Right.
So shit evolves, shit changes, new opportunities arise. I don't think anyone, so long as there are human minds with curiosity and creativity, that will never die. It's only going to change. And I think it would be what's the opposite of beneficial? I think it would be detrimental sure, we have to be wary of AI, but I think it's also detrimental to consider it a threat and only a threat, because it is certainly not. The only the only limitations are the limitations that we impose on it ourselves, you know?
I think I would like to clarify. I was being I was trying to be kind of poetic and flowery with my language. It was not meant to be literal in the sense of, like, we are the last, you know, human artists before, like, actually, you know, no one's going to make art again after this generation. That's not what I mean. All I meant was, it is going to get harder for at least a while, at least during a transition period, where... Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to maybe lose sight of the real reason why we make and consume art, which is to connect with other human beings. I think, or I mean, maybe that's too reductive, but I don't know. I think at least for a while it's going to be tough during a transition period. That's more what I meant. I was being a bit hyperbolic.
No,
I suppose.
Of course.
And I think it's just a fun kind of narrative framing of, like, there's something kind of motivating about, like, pushing yourself to make something that only you could make, kind of thing. Pushing yourself to make something that probably could not be generated by an algorithm, even if it was given, you know, hundreds of inputs that were trying to, you know, emulate your style or whatever, or emulate how your creative process works. Like, I was more using it as a framing device to inspire myself and maybe other people towards focusing on authenticity and focusing on kind of a personal touch in art. But I don't know. I feel like now that I'm explaining it, it feels pretentious. So
no, I
don't.
I don't necessarily think that's pretentious at all. I think that's great, and I think that is definitely, like, even without the narrative, that message is still extremely relevant, and I think has always been. But I also think that the people who, like, there have always been artists who strive for honesty. I think that is a pretty general thing that a lot of artists feel. That's a thing that they strive for, and maybe don't even know what it means. And the process is figuring out what that means to them. I think anything that anyone makes is something that nobody else could make. to a certain degree, unless you're like really trying to copy, but it's impossible to remove that indelible like human fingerprint from a piece of art unless you're a really good chameleon. But then like that what it means to you as an artist is still valid, and what it means to a person watching it who couldn't care less who fucking made it, but it still touched them somehow, that's separate as well. All of these experiences and ways to enjoy art, there's so many different ways to enjoy art, and there's so many different reasons why people make art that I yes, it is absolutely important, and that's a wonderful reminder, and that's a great inspirational thing to remind yourself as an artist to continue to strive for these things that you want to strive for, whether it's honesty or integrity or creativity or something new or something human or something relatable. You know, all of these things, those are great things to strive for. But I don't think, again, so long as there are humans and creativity in the world, I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I think that the very nature of being an artist, at least in the sense of being like an artist who aspires to make art that is like for art's sake, that's never going to go away. It's I mean, it's completely different if you're like a visual artist and you're just like honing your craft and your specific style is realism and you're trying to get really good at realism, and you are. That's a different type of thing. But that's people get what people get out of that is you know, revolving around that craftsmanship. And I think you can have that same kind of appreciation for a piece of digital art or a piece of AI art. I think there's still substance to all art and all things, and it's just to keep an open mind about that stuff, you know.
I am a fan of AI as a tool. I think for me, you know, I can kind of boil down art to the combination of many decisions that somebody makes. So basically, if you make the artistic decision, like, okay, this thing's going to be over here, you know, this is going to be framed this way, this is the color palette, you know, all of this stuff. These are all decisions. I think the thing that gets me a little bit less invested in a creative work is when I can tell that they're purposefully deferring artistic vision to something that is, you know, not randomly generated, but like generated based on like a prompt. So I think it's the limiting of artistic decision that makes me less interested in it personally. I don't think it has no merit. I'm just saying personally it doesn't make me feel particularly excited. And I know you can kind of pick that apart and be like, well, anytime that you have any tool that helps you, it is limiting some decisions that you would make. I just think to the extent of like typing in a prompt and just being like, make this image for me, and then like saying, here's some art that I made, feels a little disingenuous to me. But that's just
But I think also it's not necessarily like if you let's say you create an algorithm or you create an AI thing, right? Or you figure out how to use it, and then you select some prompts and you're like, hey, create this thing for me, and you press the button and then it prints it out. And then you show people. The people who know about AI art, who are really into it, will probably ask questions. They'll probably be curious about the software. They'll probably be curious about the prompts or how many times it had to be run or what the software is, or figuring out how the software teaches itself. And the artists themselves might be just as into it and you know, talk about the process a little more in a technical way. And these are different. So sure, maybe they didn't have to draw it or painstakingly paint it or whatever, but they still made that decision. And I also think that it's the same thing with film. You know, when Andy Warhol filmed a fucking building for hours and hours and hours, it's like a 10-hour movie. He made a 10-hour movie out of it's one shot of a building in real time. the things that are interesting about that are the things that happen in the frame that are accidental, or the things that are just captured. These elements that could only have happened at this time of day in this, at this part of the country, localized entirely in this one shot of the fucking the building or whatever, right? So I think, to really play devil's advocate, some of the most interesting things that I find in art, in film, are the things that were accidental, the moments that happen out of nowhere, that could not have been recreated or could not have been tampered with. Things that just happened out of either complete luck or randomness, or it was unintentional, or it was an unnoticeable thing. But those things are the human things. Those things are the that's the meat. That's the fun stuff. Like there was it Pasolini's Jesus movie, The Gospel According to St. Matthew. There's this wonderful shot where Jesus is like, I don't know, he's in front of a bunch of people or something, and he's walking down this, like, in the desert, and then as he's walking, there's a cloud overhead, like the sky just gets really fucking dark out of nowhere, and then it clears in one section, and there's light beaming down, and it forms this, like, really harsh silhouette. And as far as I know, great filmmaker, Pasolini isn't God himself, so I don't think he did that. That's a complete act of randomness, and I think that's really beautiful. And the same thing with different forms of art. Like Dadaism is very much based on randomness. There's that thing, I forget who the fuck the artist was, obviously. I don't know anything specific. I just remember, like, anecdotes, half of the anecdotes. But anyway, when they were writing poetry or they were looking for an idea, they would stab a knife into a dictionary, and whatever word it lands on is the word that is the thing, right? That's the art piece or whatever. That's valid as a form of art. I think that's incredibly exciting.
That's a prompt. That's not.
No,
the same
I don't even
thing.
think
That's
it was a
prompt.
prompt. If they were writing something and they needed a word, they'd stab it in there, and whether or not it made sense, the point of it was the randomness of this word being selected. You know?
I guess it just comes down more so to personal preference. I think for me, my and this is where we get into the complexity and subjectivity of, like, even the definition of what art is, you know. For me, like, I in my mind, the things that I put the label of art on are usually things with some sort of creative vision. Not necessarily you knew everything from the start, you know. Not necessarily like you knew exactly how it was going to go, or you planned for a cloud to be there on this particular day for this particular shot. Like, that stuff is cool. You know, it's cool to have coincidences, but it's not like the director just turned the camera on, threw it in the air, and just waited to see what it would point at, you know? There is a certain level of I think part of what is exciting about art to me is more so what we choose to focus on. So I think in the case of using AI to create something that, you know, you are guiding the experience of, that you are guiding the creation of, I think that's totally valid in my eyes. It's more so just the, and I don't want to gatekeep things either, but I feel like there is a certain kind of inherent grossness in my mind to put on the same pedestal something that somebody, you know, actually had a vision for or continuously, like, developed, and something that you just typed in a sentence. I want a picture of a duck on a stool.
Me
but
too.
He's upside down.
I also want that. I want that picture.
Let's put a picture of a duck.
Well, let's generate
on
some
a
AI art of a duck upside down.
That's what we can do in the after show. We'll generate some.
That's awesome. That's a great idea.
But
I think it's...
there's some... Oh,
Well,
sorry.
I was just gonna say it sounds like it's a question of effort and not necessarily physical effort, but creative effort. And I think that there are instances where AI art can be used creatively and can have thought put into it and can be just as meaningful to both the artist and the audience as something else, a different kind of art. But I also agree with you. If someone is just like pressing a button and then passing it off, especially for
Right.
monetary gain, I think that's like then we get into a bit of an issue. You know?
Well, especially when you look into the moral implications of how these models are actually trained. These models are trained from images taken from all over the internet from
Oh,
artists who did not consent to their art
oh
being used
God.
in the
I
in
forgot
the
about
model.
that. Fuck. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I changed my mind on everything. That's fucking shitty, dude. AI art sucks. Kill it before it grows. Fuck that.
And even looking at you can tell that they know that it's messed up because they won't try that shit with music. They have to put public domain music and shit to train their music things because the fucking Universal Music Group or whatever, they will fucking shut that shit down immediately because they know that they can't get away with it copyright wise. But because they can, all of these artists have no like legal recourse really to go after this. They can just use all of this art for free. So it'd be one thing if we kind of trained all of these algorithms based off of images that were in the public domain or based off of images that people like were asked, "Hey, do you consent to us using this in the model?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." But this is when you come up with a result, it's not a new thing completely. Not really. And I know you can make the argument that nothing is new
No,
under the
but
sun,
in this
and
case, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think.
but in
Yeah.
this case it's like uh there's a difference between looking at something and getting inspiration from it as a human and being able to perfectly replicate certain details of it as a computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is as if it's not even the same thing as tracing because there's flaws within tracing. So this is like
It's a
it
different
will
kind of forgery.
yeah, it's very shady in that sense too. So I think that's part of where I get a little bit of gross feeling
Yeah.
towards it. I don't think there's no merit to it because I think that um, maybe intellectual property shouldn't be a thing anyway, but that's a topic for
Oh
another
God,
episode.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, real lighthearted, fucking easy topics of discussion.
Right.
Oh my fucking Christ.
But that being said,
Yeah.
as long as intellectual property is a thing, I'm holding on to mine as
Likewise.
closely as I can.
Yeah, it's mine. No one else.
Don't steal my shit.
All this talk about fucking robots and ethics and shit. I feel like we should. You ever read any Isaac Asimov?
No, I mean I've heard a lot about him,
Yeah.
but I haven't. He's like the most prolific writer in history, right?
In robot fiction. Yeah, he's the best robot fiction guy. Big
He
robot
wrote so
boy.
much.
Yeah, he probably wrote like 6 or 7 books. No, more than that. More than that. I bet a robot couldn't do that.
6 or 7.
Honestly, robots
Um,
should only AI should only be able to generate art based around the existential pain and suffering of being an AI being.
Yeah, they're appropriating our existential struggles. Come up with your own.
Yeah, exactly.
fucking robot pieces of
Yeah,
shit.
teacher.
God damn it.
If you teach an AI how to be depressed, then we'll consider it a real artist, and only
Right.
then. That's the same way we consider like
That's
real
the
art now.
initiation into humanity.
It's the exact same thing. Yeah, that's how we judge art now. That's
You have to be fucking miserable.
how we'll judge art in the future. It's true. Sad robots.
On that lovely note, I think I think it's been about an hour. I think we're gonna end the main show, but I hope that was interesting. I was gonna say enlightening, but I
Probably
really
not.
don't think that
More
I said
questions than
anything-
answers. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything educational.
I
per
don't
se,
fucking
but,
care. Go listen to a fucking robot podcast then. I don't give a shit. Fuck you.
These imperfections are what make us human.
Yeah, exactly.
Goodbye, folks.
So long.
Don't let the robots grind you down.
All those memories will be lost like tears in rain.